Now, as a bass player, you're not only required to learn other tunes, but to make up bass lines over chord progressions or things that you might be playing on. If you've got a jam with some friends, or you're working on some composition, or you just have this funky groove and you want to play a bass line to it, or you've got a jazz gig and you need to do some walking bass line stuff and you've got chord charts, then you're going to want to make great bass lines. And the first thing you want to do when you do this is identify the style, as it all changes. If you're going from, you know, swinging jazz, this sort of bass line isn't going to work great if you're doing a Metallica tune, for example, or something very heavy metal or rocky. So you want to listen and look at some bass lines of that style and start to pick them apart. But we are going to be focusing on sort of jazz and perhaps some funk lines today in this video, as you know, they're going to be the ones which I'm going to be using a lot. But by all means, apply it to your own style of music, but perhaps start with some jazz stuff, as you can get some really good foundations of harmony through bass lines like this. So let's start just with a basic swing bass line, and we're just going to be walking it. The rhythm is really simple here, but you have to make sure that it's locked in, because all it is just quarter notes of whatever the pulse is. So 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. And for a bass line like this, and for any bass line really, you've got to make sure that your picking is regular, and you've got to make sure that you don't have a regular picking, as then your rhythm's off. Rhythm, you need good rhythm as a foundation. A swing bass line doesn't sound like a swing bass line if it hasn't got the rhythm to go along with it. It's absolutely atrocious and awful if it hasn't got that good clean rhythm. As the bass player, you're the one keeping the tune together really, and the drummer as well. You're working together, but if you're not playing in time, then you know it's going to be hard work for the drummer and hard work for everyone else. So make sure that your picking is regular, but if it isn't, then get a metronome and just practice on one note, and 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and make sure you're getting good tone. If the tone video that I've made is already out, then I'll put a link up there. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait for a few days, and if you're watching this in the far future, go and look at it and you'll be able to find a tone video on my channel for getting great bass tone, as it is a thing which is very useful, and especially for making bass lines, so they don't sound cool if you haven't got good tone. So once you've got a foundation and you've got good rhythm and you've got good tone, then you can start working on the shapes. I'll leave some shapes down in the description for the shapes that I'm using for a major 7 shape, minor shape, you know, dominant shape. That's not dominant, that's major 7. There we go, there's dominant. And then all of that which I'm using in this video. So let's say I'm just walking a 2-5 in C, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just going to go 2 5, and then I'm going to go 1 in C. So I've got chords D minor 7, and then I've got chords G7, which I'll probably play down there, and then I've got C major 7, and they're all the notes for that. Again, I'll leave the shapes down in the description that I'm using for this video. So if I was walking, I've got 1 bar each, and it's a 1 2, a 1 2 3 4. And that is a basic just walking bass line over that shape, and I can vary it if I want to do a 1 a 2 a 1 2 3 4. And I can do that over something, and that works over the chords as well. You can vary it and you can play around with it, and that's just on a basic chord progression, and you can apply that to chords on other tunes and just go around things. You know, maybe if you're doing a 1-4 and it's in C minor and it's quick, a 1 2 a 1 2 3 4. So you can do all things like that and develop walking bassline style and technique from it. So once you know what the shapes that you're going to use, and you can change the tempo around, and you've got good rhythm and you've got good understanding of the harmony, then you're all good for a bassline like that. But what about a funk line? Perhaps something that you want to develop a little bit more than just a walking bassline. This is where your rhythm really does matter. Let's say we're going to go with this rhythm. It's from a tune Come On Come Over by Jaco Pastorius, but It's just like that. And if we want to extend it, so we can extend it to that, and we can move that shape around. And if you find a rhythm that you like, then by all means use it and incorporate it into a bass line and incorporate it with harmony. We go and you can play around with all sorts of rhythm and play around with loads of different things, and you can sing it out while you're playing it. I find that really helps when I'm making bass lines. But what if you want to make something simple? We've talked about how you make a great swinging bass line. We talked about how you make a funk bass line. Pretty much the same thing as what you're doing with the swing with that chord harmony, but you've got to really think about that rhythm much more closely. Not that you don't think about the rhythm with a swing bass line, because it's very important, but you think about that syncopation a lot more with some funk bass lines. And obviously you can add things like chromatic passing notes and whatnot, but you can add that in a swing bass line as well. So it's sort of the feel changes compared to it, and that changes for a bossa as well, and the feel changes. But what if we want to do something a little bit more simple? Let's just take a basic shape, and we're going to start on E flat, and we're just going to go basic rhythm, because it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the rhythm is just straight quavers at about 120 to 130 BPM, I think. So and the way that we're working with the harmony is we've got E flat, which is our root note, then we've got a C, which is our 6, and we've got a B flat, which is our 5. But the 6 is really just sort of a passing note to the 5. If you think about it, it's sort of just like the 5 and the 1 are the important notes, because what the bass line's really doing is that's what the harmony is doing, but it's just a note that just sort of carries it into it more. So it carries it into that from it, instead of just it just carries it in, as you can see. And we can move that shape around over chord progression. If we want to do C minor, we can have the 1, then we can have the minor 7, which certainly isn't a passing note in this context, and then we can have the 5, and they're all real like C minor-y stuff. So that shape perhaps would apply better to the E flat, but that shape I think just works better for the sounds, and then we can do that same shape on B flat. And then you've got this cool sort of bass line, which is on a very simple concept, and it's just hitting those right notes, which is very simple line, but it works effectively over some pop tunes, some rock tunes, and even some funk stuff as well. Simple rhythm, but works well over the changes effectively, and just generally is a great bass line. Ultimately, what you need to do when creating your bass lines is focus on good tone, good intonation in the case of the fretless bass, and good rhythm, and really just a good development of ideas. But all of this takes time, and you're going to have many moments where you just hate what you're playing, frankly, and that's okay. And it's okay to make mistakes and have problems with what you're playing, but the more you do it, and the more you listen, and the more that you develop your ideas further, then you're going to enjoy this process, and the better bass lines which you're going to create. From simple to difficult ones, there is such variety which you can make, and it really just does let your creativity shine, and it can even improve your soloing abilities as well, as you're essentially improvising. You're just improvising out these bass lines. It's always a good thing, actually. Just eventually I'll just get out a chord chart and I'll just play through some changes I've never played before. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well, but it's always a good learning opportunity. So that's all I've got for today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed. And now you've got some things to do when you start learning some new bass lines, so you can create your own bass lines. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.